Thing that
There we go.
I didn't break it.
You're good. All righty.
They usually don't let me touch the technology because
And you know, I know a couple things.
RVA's leading social enterprise show. On the mic with Mike King Biz, delivering food for thought. To find out more about the dynamic host of On the Mic with Mike, please visit his website at mikekingbiz.com.
Hi, I'm Reba Hollingsworth with CBS 6, and I was on the mic with Mike and had a fabulous time. Make sure you tune in every week.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic, the premier business radio program. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. We're coming to you from the Mike King Biz studio, the epicenter of global enterprise business. So today, I know the man when I came in 2014. He was a TV personality. Morgan Dean is in the house with us, but you are here with AAA.
I am with AAA.
So really quickly, it's a business show. So tell folks who you are and what you do.
So I'm Morgan Dean, like you said. Used to work in broadcasting here in Richmond, but flipped over to the other side about 3 years ago, right about 6 weeks before the pandemic hit. Worked for AAA as the Public and Government Affairs Manager, which means a lot of different hats out there. But some of the biggest ones is that I worked down at the General Assembly on traffic safety laws and issues down there, but also serve as the spokesperson for the organization, which can cover travel, roadside, car care, as well as traffic safety.
So one of the things we see, the building right there on Broad Street, what is that building?
So you're talking about the one over
by Glenside?
Glenside.
Okay.
So that is one of what we refer to it as a CCIT, which sounds secretive and everything else. It all just stands for Car Care Insurance Travel Center.
Okay.
So if you come inside there and you need to get your car checked out or get some work done on your car, they'll take care of your car back in the back. While you're there, you can check in with our insurance folks, find out, get an insurance quote, see if you could change, see if you could save a few bucks. And our travel folks there are available as well if you're thinking about a trip, a cruise, somewhere else. The big question we always get asked, do you have to be a member to come in the store? Absolutely not. Open to the public. Members may get an extra discount in some ends of things, but it is open to the public, and we'd love to come see you. And a free car check. If you come in and have questions, they can do a check on your vehicle and let you know where things are, especially if you've missed some of that maintenance over the past couple of years because all the craziness with COVID.
That is true. So the AAA seems to me to be like the BBB. People kind of know who you are, but they aren't exactly sure what you do. Like you're saying, do you have to be a member?
Right.
And it's like, no, but we see you, AAA is, I got a flat, you guys come out and help me. But you guys are doing a lot more, like you said, on the legislative side.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what exactly that is.
So, well, let me take you back a little bit. 1902, it's hard for us to imagine what 1902 was like because we live in 2023 right now. But back then, the first few cars were getting onto the roadways, but there weren't really roadways. They were driving in horse tracks. And that was causing a lot of breakdowns. They were running out of gas. There weren't gas stations in a lot of places. So the first few people that had cars banded together and created AAA for roadside.
Oh, really?
Right. But along with that came advocacy for safer and better roads and really setting up traffic safety systems and understanding how cars are different than horses and horse and buggies. 20 years after that, they came and created the AAA School Safety Patrol, which still exists today, now celebrating its 103rd anniversary. But the big thing with that was kids were getting killed around schools because kids were having tough times anticipating the difference between cars and horses out on the roadway. So with AAA School Safety Patrol, they empowered young people to start teaching their classmates about how to be safe around vehicles and on roads and other things.
One of Mike Morgan Dean here with us with AAA. And one of the things I always look at AAA is you guys sort of pop up at certain times of the year. All right, Memorial Day's coming. AAA is out doing the media tour. Everybody's coming and talking about it. What do you guys have to do to get ready for that? Is it?
So you hit the nail on the head where May's a very busy time period for us. We come out with our official AAA travel forecast. The past couple of days, I've been fielding calls from stations that are like, hey, can we get on the books for the end of May? We really want to talk to you about what the forecast is looking like. This year, even a little bit bigger than it might have been in other years, because the big question and the big trends we've been looking at lately, our travel bookings at AAA for international travel are up 200% over last year. TSA is saying that they believe that travel numbers this summer are going to be comfortably above pre-pandemic numbers. Even Delta has said that they've seen a record number of bookings this year for the airline seats there. So all those things together, we're wondering what our forecast numbers are going to look like for Memorial Day? Are they going to tell the story that travel-wise we have bounced back up above what we saw in 2019? And in that end of things, things are back to normal or even setting records above where we were pre-pandemic. So a lot of discussion about where travel has gone over the past couple of years. 2020, a lot of people didn't make big trips. They did some regional things. National parks, state parks, very popular as people were in kind of their own little cocoon in their bubble with their families. 2021, the vaccine came out. People felt a little bit more comfortable traveling. Cruising wasn't back up. International destinations weren't back up. 2022, some of those international destinations started reopening. Resorts started reopening, but maybe with limited staff, not as many amenities. This year, things are back closer to where they were normal, and people are really embracing that and wanting to get back out to what they were doing, which is getting together with friends and family and loved ones and making those memories.
So where is the AAA headquarters in Richmond? Where are you guys based at?
So we have offices all over the place. We have an office down in the Arboretum, just up Midlothian Turnpike,
Okay.
here where our fleet dispatches out of. So when you see our trucks rolling and replacing batteries and fixing flat tires, they're coming out from there. We have our Glenside Car Care Insurance Travel Center. We have one down in Scott's Addition. We have two in Chesterfield, one at Chesterfield Town Center, and one at Swift Creek over off of Hall Street near Harbor Point.
All right, it's a sales pitch for AAA. Explain to people why they need to get the service.
So AAA, you mentioned it, you know it best as roadside. That's one of the things that we do. Having that card in your pocket, knowing that there's going to be somebody to come get you if there's a problem on the roadside. It could be that your battery died while you're out shopping at the grocery store. It could be that you get a flat tire or there's some other damage to your vehicle and you're stopped and disabled along Interstate 95. Knowing that you're having that card in your pocket that you can call someone will be coming to your rescue.
Morgan Dane here with Mike King. This is the Mike King Biz Radio Show, On the Mic with Mike. You started in journalism and media how long ago?
1993.
Okay, so now fast forward. Did you ever think that we'd be in AAA at AAA? Did you think you were going to stay in media forever?
You know, back in 1993, the young idealist right out of college, just starting in the business, you kind of feel that way. But 26 years later, the world looked like a different place. The business kind of looked a bit like a different place. And in some respects, I felt like I'd kind of done what I needed to do in the business. And the great thing about working in journalism is that you learn an awful lot about the world. I always tell people when you're a journalist, you feel like you become an expert on one topic for one day. You may forget a lot of it by the next day, but you've retained some bits of that. So all the different stories I covered over the years in journalism gave me an idea how a lot of different things worked. And one of the best contacts I had at that time was AAA and the person that I succeeded there, which was Martha Mead, who was a great public relations facilitator. Whenever I would call her for a story, I would say, hey, Martha, I'm working on a story about this. It kind of crisscrosses transportation, gas prices, and something else. Can you help me with it? And she and I would work together, and I would come up with a story with it. So I had a good relationship with her, and I really felt like AAA and doing some traffic safety things and being in that realm or a place that, as a second chapter in my life after television broadcasting, I might like to be. And it worked out that I ended up there.
Can you touch on the power of being in people's homes and delivering stories? Before we came on, I asked you about the idea of hearing stories day after day. Sometimes they're tough stories. And how does that not become a part of you? And you're going into people's homes, delivering that news to them.
So one of the big things I think that happens when you've worked in television and when you're out there in the public on television is that they put you on a pedestal a little bit as a celebrity. Not to the level of Brad Pitt, but when you're in a public
You're
store.
not real. I see you on TV. Then I see you
Exactly.
in the supermarket. I'm like, is that him?
And you would get that. And, you know, for my kids, when my kids were young, they were like, Dad, why do you have to talk to everybody at the store? And I always say to them, because that was a big moment for them. They felt like it was a big thing when they came over and said hello to me and asked for a picture on their phone. And I would always say, absolutely. If they were excited about meeting me, that meant that they were connecting with me on television, and we were making that connection, which is what's so important when you're a broadcaster. And I always wanted to make sure that I didn't make them feel uncomfortable or bad when they met me in person. If it was a big deal to them, I wanted to make it for a big deal. So pose for that picture, talk to them, find out what they're doing. What do they like about the news? What would they like to see more of? What would they like to see less of? And making those connections. The question you also asked was, how do you disassociate yourself from some of the stories that you cover? Because some of those things are hard. I think the hardest one I ever had was when I went to cover the Virginia Tech shootings. That was just an absolutely awful day for everybody involved. But having gone to Virginia Tech and going back to campus and seeing buildings closed off that I had had classes in, and knowing that that's where the shooting happened, hit really, really close to home to me. I got through my work at campus. We did all of our stories, told some really important, impactful stories to the public about what had happened up there. And then months and months later, I got asked if I would speak about some of it. And that's when it hit me, just what I had covered, and that I hadn't maybe dealt with some of the bad things that I had seen. And it really kind of hit me 6 months later as I was going back through my clips and looking at some of the pictures that I had taken on there. As a journalist, you try and leave yourself that extra space to give yourself the chance to disconnect from it. But it can play into things, and it can get into your head, and it can be tough sometimes.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
Sometimes it doesn't work. Downtime, family time, having those hobbies and doing the things that you love to do, that can make all the difference.
So you've seen Richmond way back in the day, early 90s, starting in journalism. What's the big difference that you see now here?
It's technology. I think technology is driving so many of the changes. When I first started in the business, it was dummy computer terminals. We still had typewriters on the edge of the desk in case the computers didn't work like they were supposed to. But you would punch through a screen. There was no Windows. There was no internet at that time period. We didn't have cell phones. They had bag phones that would sit up on the assignment desk, and you could check one or two of the bag phones out. But you look like Zach Morris.
Yeah.
with that bag phone. Technology's changed so much. The first camera that I used was a monstrous camera that weighed about 35 pounds. Up on your shoulder, that gets to be very, very heavy. And today's cameras are much, much smaller. I also wore a belt around my waist that had batteries on it that added another 20 to 30 pounds, and the old tripod and things like that. Technology's gotten much smaller. I mean, heck, the iPhone that we're talking on right now
is ridiculous.
Has so much more power on it than some of the cameras did back in the day.
I have a camera in the studio here, and it's just easier to plop the phone up there because we're moving. And so before I used to work at AccuWeather, and I dealt with a lot of newspapers, there was always a competition between newspapers and TV. And the newspaper folks said the equalizer was the phone.
It was.
Because all of a sudden, here, the newspaper reporter is right there doing the same thing that the TV reporter's doing.
Well, I'll throw the flip side of that to you. When so much stuff went online and websites for television stations and radio stations got big, I'm sure there were people at the newspaper like, they're posting stories online. They're in our territory.
There were people that I dealt with who were like, we aren't putting our content online. Because if we put it online, no one's going to buy the newspaper.
So, it wasn't too many years ago when we were stepping into that, being online. How much do you give away ahead of being able to get your story on the air at 5 p.m.? And there would be times where it wasn't until our 4:15 or 4:20 p.m. promos would pop up that anybody would have any idea what story we were working on. And that was done specifically so that the competition couldn't see the story and try and call and confirm it until our version ran on television. But this day and age, things happen at such a speed, you kind of have to put it out there. You got to have it out there.
How can people get information about AAA?
Very easy, AAA.com, AAA.com/travel. Take a look at the different membership packages. There are different levels depending on what you think you need. Whether you have an RV, do you tow a boat all the time? Do you tow a trailer? Do you feel like you need this many tows, that many tows? How far do you think you might need to go? Who else in the family would you like to cover? All those different things.
What's new and exciting at AAA that people need to know about?
Real quickly, we were very successful this year in working with several lawmakers to get a change passed to the Move Over law here in the state of Virginia.
Okay, sir, what's the Move Over? Oh, that's the one where they're telling you, slow down on the highway. Somebody's dad or mom works here. Is that it?
That is it. You were listening. So in the past, well, currently, because it hasn't changed, it changes on July 1st. That's the enactment date of this new law. Currently, you're encouraged to slow down and move over, if possible, when you see red, blue, or amber flashing lights. That's to protect our ambulances, our fire trucks, our law enforcement officers, and our tow trucks when they're out there on the roadway. We also we inserted some language that also extends that coverage to anybody in a stationary vehicle, so a disabled vehicle along the side of the road. If you're displaying your hazard lights, a warning sign like one of the emergency triangles, or flares. So if you're broken down on the side of the road, you're disabled, we want you to have the same protection as everybody else that might be working along that roadside. The danger begins the second somebody stops along the roadside. So drivers out there, get used when you see those flashing lights or hazard lights or anything along the side of the road, bring that speed down, make that lane change over to the side, give them the space that they need to be safe. They may be waiting for us to get there with some roadside help. They may be trying to change their tire themselves. It could be some sort of a medical emergency inside that vehicle. We want to give them the space to be safe along the side.
You never know how fast cars are going until you're on the side of the road sitting still and cars are going by.
It is the
It
most
seems like
terrifying.
they're going a million miles an hour.
It is a very terrifying place to be. And if you think it's bad on Midlothian Turnpike or on Broad Street, wait till you're stuck along Interstate 95 or I-81 or I-64. You really do get the feel of how fast traffic is moving by you. And if there is some sort of a connection on the roadway between a vehicle and a person at that speed, that person is not going to survive.
They're not concerned. All right, really, one of the great parts about having your own show is I get to talk to experts. The idea that we train people to drive and we made the parking in the middle of the street. You know, some of those, and they've had white lines out there for bike paths. Explain to the listeners, you know, like some of the safety rules that people need to enact. Because I know when it used to be a street, and all of a sudden their cars parked there, and it's kind of difficult for people to understand. Or like the Pulse, trying to figure out. I see cars sometimes, they're doing something crazy because they realize, I'm not supposed to be in this lane, and now I dip over.
So I think the important thing to think about with all of that, the slower you're going, the less distracted you are, the more focused you are on the roadway, the better it is for everybody. Roads in the past, the idea was pave as much as you can and give the cars as much space as possible. But in modern times, we're realizing that in some cases, that encourages people to go above the speed limit and makes it unsafe for people at corners. I mean, we've got people in downtown Richmond crossing at every single corner. We have bikes sharing the road with us. We have buses and dedicated lanes sharing the road with us as well. Slowing down, being a courteous driver, and being on the lookout for everybody. Our job as drivers is to make sure that we're safe on the roadway. We're making it safe for all the passengers in a vehicle. We want to make sure it's safe for every single other user on that roadway. Be a pedestrian, a cyclist, the driver beside you, the bus driver beside you, the person that's getting off the bus in the middle of that roadway. Watching out for all of them is so very, very important.
There you go, Morgan Dean, AAA. One last time, sir, how can people find you?
AAA.com. You can learn all about the different services that we have, and we can help you out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to On the Mic with Mike, and this is what we are.
Best business show in RVA. On the mic with Mike in RVA.
Thank you. You can follow us on all social platforms, On the Mic with Mike, as well as Mike King Biz. What we do is we support the community. What we do is we showcase RV in a different way. All of everything's happening. It's not total business. It's business-ish because we work with the folks. We give them away to nonprofits because they're out there helping make our global village better. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Thanks. Now take care.
Hey, thanks for having
All
me.
right. On the Mic with Mike, we got to go, folks. Thanks. Take care. All righty. Sorry about this.
No, all good.